WEFUNK. We funk.
So right now, Top Rank on ESPN, like I mentioned, really sneaking in ahead of the curve and giving us our first taste of boxing and in a lot of ways our first taste of live major sports here in America, right? So I guess let me real quick just paint the picture, I guess, for everybody who didn't get to watch and let you kind of just know how it's all going down here with major sports in this post-Coronaville world. I feel right off the bat, in terms of a television kind of a scenario, ESPN did a brilliant job in the way they kind of designed their boxing ring into more of kind of like a television studio setup, which is different than what we've seen so far around the world, as well as with UFC, actually, I guess. But so far what we've seen for major sports around the world is empty arenas, okay? They're playing German football in, all of the regular stadiums without any fans. South Korean baseball, they, try to put in, fake pictures of fans to create some atmosphere, as well as pumping noise, but you're in an empty stadium without any fans. Same thing with UFC. So it's kind of got that cavernous, empty feel. What ESPN did at their, now boxing headquarters in Vegas, okay, where they have kind of, quarantined their whole, what they call the bubble. They have created their whole little boxing, corona-free boxing world here in Vegas, as I'll kind of describe the whole bubble to you. But just in terms of the production of what you're watching, you're pretty much just watching the ring, okay, with tight shots on the action, and then maybe, some video boards or stuff behind them, but looks much better than the cavernous, empty arena, okay, I guess, in terms of watching it on TV. You don't have that, like, empty arena feel that you have in the other sports. However, you are noticeably lacking the, oohs and ahs and fan reaction, which will be interesting to see, especially in the sport like boxing, where I really do feel that, fighters feed off of that energy, and especially in late rounds and certain situations, I really feel that just the whole frenzied atmosphere around a boxing match does play a huge impact on the in-ring action. And I guess we'll kind of see how the other sports, it's kind of felt a little flat, like I've said, for German football. When, however, playing in the empty arena, you're maybe kind of just not, doesn't feel like that same level of action from the early cards we've seen so far in the first week. The competition, the level of competition was there, and it felt a lot more, appropriate and comfortable in a small designed setting like that, as opposed to the empty arena. I guess kind of the other, so however, we will see the impact on some of the fighters, like, for example, later on we'll kind of run through the upcoming schedule, but a guy like Jamel Herring, who's, a scrappy underdog kind of fighter that's now holding a strap, and, a pretty good promotional tool for ESPN on Top Rank, but of course he's got the whole military background, and he always seems to benefit from a lot of, hometown emotional fights, as we'll see this 4th of July weekend. But Jamel Herring is the kind of guy, or Mickey Conlon, that's performing in front of sold-out crowds of, rabid Irish fans, or a guy like Jamel Herring, like I said, that's, always performing, boxing in front of, a sold-out crowd full of military personnel on, holiday weekends or whatnot. All of that energy and emotion definitely translates into some, into some effect on the fight. So we'll see the action without that kind of energy, right, and the kind of the impact thereof. I guess another kind of side to to that, however, will be some of the big fighters' willingness to kind of compete. They haven't really announced purses for these fights that I found. You're not exactly seeing how much the fighters are making. However, without 20,000 sold-out tickets, they simply can't be making as much. So in terms of big fights and big-name fighters, even your Lomachenkos and Crawfords and whatnot, for example, I don't know if you're going to see, Canelo Alvarez rushing out to fight in an empty arena just because I don't know if the money is necessarily going to be there, whereas we've seen so far, even for the announced fights in the immediate future for ESPN, a lot more kind of up-and-coming, prospects in the game, really headlined, of course, by Shakur Stevenson, as we'll get into, but, more of the future of boxing stars as opposed to the contemporary boxing stars on display so far, and we'll see, how long that continues in this fanless atmosphere, okay, and we'll see how long we continue without fans, which I guess is another factor in this. A lot of these fighters probably figure they can wait it out, especially in various places in the world. In a couple months, we might be at limited capacity arenas or whatnot, so it'll be interesting to see there, like I said. But I guess to kind of continue on with kind of, to set the scene for everybody as to what's going down in Vegas. So that takes care of the, kind of presentation of the fight. Couple of the logistical things in terms of the actual fights, but a limited ring crew, as the fighters are each allowed 2 people. Okay, so no whole money Mayweather entourage ringside, all right? You're getting 2 trainers per fighter with a rotating cutman kind of scenario where there are going to be, approved cutmen that kind of, get chosen by the fighters, beforehand, but it's going to be kind of out of a small pool of a proven cutmen, as opposed to every fighter bringing their own individual cutman, which is kind of interesting. But that is very interesting to see the potential impact of the more limited entourage and ring crew kind of situation. Another aspect of this that you notice through the first couple of fight cards, but without the crowds, the trainers and the 2 people that you're allowed to have at ringside really take on a much more audible feel, as all you can hear is Buddy McGirt screaming on the fighter, and that really is, those 2 trainers are going to be able to really not only coach their fighters a lot more throughout the fight in terms of just like actual stylistic and strategy, but a lot more hype man opportunity. And in all honesty, like I said, with the emotions and importance of that in boxing, in all honesty, having 2 guys in your corner that can really inspire that energy and give you that motivation really might be a very important factor as we go through these, crowdless fights. So interesting logistical aspect there that we'll keep our eye on, and the impact of, all right, I guess a couple of other things, I guess, just from back to the, TV production and presentation whole kind of thing, but I guess, in order to limit, and I guess these fights are taking place in, like I mentioned, in Vegas, but the fight, the ring itself is located in like a huge like conference room, which has kind of been converted into the, boxing arena, but a limited, personnel allowed in the actual, fight area of the whole facility itself. So the announcers are off-site, which really in the days of Zoom barely makes a difference. Okay, and I've said it before, but ESPN, you're in good hands because they really do have the best team in boxing. And in all honesty, I've said it before, but I really think Timothy Bradley is potentially my favorite sports analyst working in the game. game today in terms of just doing a great job giving you insight, combined with entertainment and energy and all that. He just does an amazing job. And on full display, right from the first night of comeback, on that Shakur Stevenson card, him and Andre Ward did a great job. Him and Andre Ward as well did a great job breaking down the whole Black Lives Matter situation and telling stories of them dealing with, racial injustice in their time in boxing and beyond. Especially Tim Bradley had a really, powerful whole thing that he went on that I actually have up on Big LW Podcast's Facebook page, so definitely check that out. But anyway, however, you in this in this post-Zoom world, you really can barely tell the difference between the color guys calling this fight off-site. All right, so that's fine. In terms of the in-fight interviews, they still have a on-ring, on-site interview guy at the arena. However, the interviews are kind of are taking place outside of the ring on like a early 90s WWF style platform overlooking the ring, which was always a great look in early 90s WWF pay-per-views, and works just fine here on Top Rank on ESPN as well. But as well, the Ring Girls are a huge Coronaville update, but the Ring Girls are now wearing full-legged pants to help protect the spread of COVID-19. So big shout out to the Top Rank Girls for wearing pants, doing their part. I guess some other logistical things, but the whole ring and the corners and all of that getting Sani wiped in between fights on any given card, okay, and then in between cards on any given week, the whole facility is getting, like UV raid for safety, okay, and basically, in essence, however, what they try to create, like I mentioned it earlier, is the bubble, where another interesting fact of this whole thing, but in order to enter this complex, everybody is COVID tested and then quarantined in their hotel room for the 10 to 12 hours that it takes. But once you get a passing result, a negative result on the active virus test, which of course can still, if you caught the disease 20 minutes before the test, it might not show, so not 100% exactly efficiency rate there. However, theoretically speaking, what they're trying to create is an atmosphere where everybody that is in this Vegas compound is COVID-19 free anyway, okay, and then still taking all these precautions. It really should be a quote-unquote should be, but it really should be a fairly safe place to to provide some entertainment in the world of sports and in the world of boxing here. However, I guess we will definitely keep the COVID-19 situation and all that will definitely be an ongoing whole aspect of this, as like I mentioned, boxing is in a rare kind of situation to the other sports where all of their their competitors and the people involved can kind of they all do all of their training individually off-site and all. So I guess the only problem, however, they can only enter the complex so long before fight night, however, and I guess the first casualty of this whole situation was Michaela Meyer, who, of course, is the, U.S. Olympian and, female champion that has undercard, co-headlined a couple times with Shakur Stevenson now. They were Olympic teammates, and she has appeared on a couple of Shakur Stevenson's cards, and she was set to co-headline the Shakur Stevenson card in this return to boxing. However, failed her COVID-19 test upon entering the bubble. Since, however, it has turned out that Michaela Meyer, her active viral test was kind of, was kind of confused almost with like an antibody kind of situation where she had tested positive for having COVID in her system because she had tested positive for it before. However, she had now really fought it off, and really just days later, upon like a second test, they had kind of concluded that she would be pretty much by the end of the fight card. They concluded that she theoretically should have been or would have been, COVID free and able to compete. However, too late, as she didn't make it in the bubble and the fight was called off, and that will be, I think, like an ongoing situation here with these fighters that, on any given, you're only going to find out whether they're allowed to enter the bubble, day of fight or, 24, 36 hours before fight night anyway, so this potentially won't be the first time, won't be the last time that something like this happens. However, I guess all in all, it really was just absolutely amazing to have boxing back for the night on that opening night on Tuesday on the Shakur Stevenson comeback card, and throughout the week and in weeks to come. But just really, when that opening bell went off on that Tuesday night, I can honestly tell you that it was the happiest that I had personally been since really all of the cancellations started, and for me personally, as I've talked about, but I had ringside seats to the Hulu Theater at the Garden for the Shakur Stevenson featherweight title defense on March 14th. And, it was not until literally like March 13th or March 12th anyway that Top Rank officially canceled that fight, although the writing was on the wall by then. But so it was, one of the first things to go for me personally, and now one of the first things to return, picking up where we left off as well, with Shakur Stevenson headlining a card for ESPN and Top Rank Boxing. So really, really just great to have boxing back.
WEFUNK. We funk.